Welcome to the Savvy Dentist podcast with Dr. Jesse Green, the show where great dentistry meets great business. Listen in each week as we bring you an inspiring person who will share their story, ideas and business techniques to help you create a practice and a life you love. And now introducing your host, Dr. Jesse Green.
Hi everyone, it's Jesse Green here. Welcome back to SavvyDentist.com and to the Savvy Dentist podcast, the show where great dentistry meets great business. All of us appreciate the importance of having a high-functioning front desk. The front desk represents the first impression a patient has with our practice, whether it's on the telephone or whether it's in person as the patient comes through the door. That front desk person is also responsible for making sure the appointment book operates smoothly and consistently, which then in turn has a huge impact on the overall viability of the business. So whoever is filling that role in your business needs to be well trained and perform at a high level day in, day out. My guest today is Sue Sandals from Practice Based Solutions. And though many of you know Sue through her infection control training, Sue is just as passionate about helping front desk personnel perform really well in their role. What Sue shares in this particular episode are some absolute gold nuggets, some pearls of wisdom about how the front desk person can operate highly and consistently day in, day out. She talks about some of the common problems that front desk person might experience and how to overcome them. She talks about the importance of appearance and looking the part and representing the brand really well. She talks about some of the language skills, the simple things, those little details that make all the difference. There's heaps of really useful, practical tips that she shares in this episode. And as always, I'm going to suggest that you have a pen and paper handy because you're going to want to take notes. And of course, you're going to want to then apply that information for great benefit and great effect. Sue and I are also running some training courses. If you'd like us to train your front desk people for you, we're more than happy to do that. And all you need to do is go to savvydentist.com/front desk to find out more about the training courses that we'll be running to help your front desk person excel in their role. We're going to be covering communication skills. We're going to be covering appointment booking skills. We're going to be covering dress and deportment. We're going to be covering a variety of things to make sure that your front desk person operates really well, consistently day in, day out. And you're going to get a great benefit from that because your patients will have a great experience and your business will operate more smoothly and more enjoyably for you. So if you want to find out more information, do head across to savvydentist.com/front desk and find out what Sue and I are going to be sharing with your team. But for now, let's have a conversation with Sue. I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I enjoyed recording it. Here she is. Sue, welcome to the Savvy Dentist podcast. It is fantastic to have you here. I've been looking forward to having you on this show for the longest time. We get to speak so often, and yet we haven't recorded a conversation. So thank you for coming on to our show. How are you?
I'm well, Jesse. Thank you for having me. Always a pleasure to talk to you. And yes, we have been trying to organise this for a while, and great to be able to start doing it now.
Yeah, look, it's so exciting. We've got a lot of things we're going to be talking about today. And obviously you and I get to speak, and I get to know a bit more about you, and you get to know a bit more about me. But our audience will know you in one sense, but they may not know all of your background, which is rich and diverse, and you bring years, decades of experience to the work you do now. I'm wondering if you could just quickly share with the audience a little bit about how you found your way into the work that you do now.
Okay. Well, it goes back many years ago, back to 1974. I started as a dental nurse.
Wow.
And I was a nurse for probably about 2 years. And then I thought I really wanted to do something else. I really wanted to be a flight attendant. So I joined TAA back in those days, which stood for Tri-Ansett Airline. And it was wonderful. I had a great time. But just before I joined the airline, I met a guy who was a patient at our practice. So we started going out together, and I went flying, and the romance continued, and I ended up giving up flying 2 years later and marrying Peter and have a wonderful daughter. But I went back to dental, and I went back as a nurse, became a practice manager, clinical coordinator. I'm always looking to do something more. And then so I was progressing up the ladder further and further. Then I thought, you know what, I want more. So I became a dental rep with Rudolph Gordon's back in Sydney, and I was a technical advisor for materials and did a lot of training at the dental hospitals and introducing SD products with SD, of course. We had the agency for it, and into both Melbourne, Sydney and Adelaide Hospital. And it was great. I loved it. Then I thought after 9 years I wanted more, so I decided to go and do my teaching, and I became a teacher of Cert 3 and Cert 4 dental nursing in Melbourne. And look, it was a wonderful, wonderful experience, and I'm still very much attached to my students, and I still today go out and do the final assessment on the students, which I love to do. But what I used to do, I used to say to the students, because we can choose a career and not really know if it's what we want to do. So I would encourage them to go out and do observation. Let's see if this is what you really want to do. And they'd come back and they'd say, Sue, they don't infection control like you teach it. And I kept hearing it. And I thought, look, I'm really passionate about dentistry. And I thought, this is not right. So 4.5 years ago, I opened the business Practice-Based Solutions. And I started with, a phone book and ringing dentists. And I've now grown the business that I had to give up teaching, but I'm still involved with the final assessments. And I'm travelling Australia. I'm having a wonderful time. I love what I do. And I think that's really important because if you love what you do, it projects to your clients.
Yeah, totally does. And one of the things you do so well, Sue, is you bring energy and enthusiasm and passion. And I can hear it in your voice right now. In fact, ladies and gents, we are actually recording this as a video chat. So you can't see us, but I can see Sue, and she's just lighting up as she's describing her career, which is fantastic. I do want to ask you something, Sue, because is it okay if I just go back in time for a little bit? Because I want to ask you a bit about working in the airlines.
Okay, yes.
What did you take from that experience into dentistry? Because I'm sure you would have gathered lots of experiences and lessons throughout all of those roles. What sort of things did the airlines teach you that you think are valuable?
Well, I think they taught me that punctuality is very important. I think they taught me grooming and deportment, how to treat people, how to be approachable to people with patients' needs, or when you're on an airline, you get people who have never flown before. How are you going to deal with that situation when they're nervous? How to deal with children who are screaming on an aircraft because their ears are popping. It happens all the time. And I think one of the big things I learned was being a team player, because when you're on an airline, when you're on the aircraft, you are a team player.
Yeah.
And I think the interviews that you go through to actually become a flight attendant is so rigid and so hard, and you have a panel and they're firing questions at you, just like it was like on an aircraft. Someone's asking a question, someone else is asking something else. But I think the big thing is a team player, and that's what I take into the dental surgeries when I was practice manager. If you're not a team player, you're in the wrong job.
Yeah, absolutely. And, in essence, on that aircraft, you have to be a team player, of course, because everyone's lives are dependent upon you guys operating as a great team. But in dental practice, it's the same too, because the patient is dependent upon the team functioning effectively and well and doing all the things that they need to be doing. I'm curious to talk a little bit about the customer service experience that you might have, learned through the airlines and dealing with those scenarios, whether it's a child who's, trying to balance their ears or a nervous fly or any of those things. What really, in your mind, constitutes great customer service?
Good question. I actually think it's being approachable, where the person, whether it be a patient or someone on an aircraft, can actually feel comfortable with you. But I think as far as a dental surgery is concerned, as far as you put it into that perspective, as far as customer service, I think being engaged with your patients, having fun, because that projects so well. It really does. Because when you project well and you're having fun, the patients pick up on it very quickly, and then they gain trust in what you're doing and what you're saying. And consequently, they'll go, oh, well, Sue, if you're telling me I should rebook, I better rebook.
Yeah.
And that's what it comes down to.
It's really interesting. So just on that, so I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
That's fine.
But I'm curious to ask you, in today's fast-paced world, how do you see customer service changing? Do you think it's getting better? Do you think it's getting worse? Do you think it's about the same? What do you think?
Look, I actually don't think it's actually any faster than what it was 20 years ago, really.
Amen to that. Yeah.
I think if you take the time with your patients, if you look at a patient when you're talking to the patient, smile. A smile says 1,000 words, always. But the one thing that we don't tend to do these days is listen to what is being said, what is actually being asked of you.
Why do you think we don't do that?
because we're thinking of some other things.
Mm.
We're not focusing on what we're doing.
Mm. Okay. All right. So if great customer service then, Sue, is being accessible, being in tune with the patient, being approachable, I think is the phrase you used, how do we create that? You've spoken a bit about smiling. You've spoken about listening. Are there other things that we can practice in our day-to-day work to enhance that ability to be approachable?
Education. I think a lot of the time, especially in dentistry, I notice it a lot because I'm in and out of practices all the time, is that you get a girl who might be a really good receptionist. A really good nurse.
Yep.
And the boss says, I'm going to promote you to be a receptionist.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the two skills are totally different.
Mm.
Totally different. And you can't expect someone to go into that sort of a role without being educated, learning the skills that are required for that role. I mean, when a girl goes to dental school and learns to be a dental nurse, that's what they learn.
Mm.
There's no real focus on being a receptionist.
Yeah, it's the same as dentists going to dental school and not learning anything about business. You know, the focus is on how to do the clinical work. No one teaches you how to run the practice, and same with the DAs. So you get the chance to walk into hundreds of practices each year, and you would see some stellar examples of customer service, I'm sure, not just in dental practice, but in the other places you visit as well. But if you were to categorize some of the mistakes that people make... Okay.
My pet hate, and I hear it all the time, and it riles my blood. I might ring a dental surgeon and say, no worries, love. How you going?
Mm.
You know, I think that you walk into a shop and I'll say it to you. But when you walk into a dental surgery, some of the bigger mistakes they do is the minute you walk in, they look straight at their computer.
Yeah.
You know, I want eye contact. I want to smile. Good morning.
Yeah. And
don't worry about the patient's name. They'll tell you what their name is. Make contact with that patient first up. I think appearance is very important. Maybe it's a bit of old school, but I think that we are in the medical profession, and we've got to look right. You know, if you don't look right, you're not going to project right.
So you are absolutely speaking my language here. I'd like to talk to you about this because appearance is something that I think is really important on lots of different levels. As you say, if you feel right, if you look good, you feel good, and you project well. But equally, there's also the brand of the practices being represented as well, and all those other things as well. So I want to ask you, because as a man,
yes,
it is sometimes a little tricky saying to a lady, could you please pull your hair up or do whatever it happens to be, because in today's world that sometimes doesn't land so well. So I want to just talk a little bit about grooming and deportment, because this is something that I feel every practice can and should do. I feel that every team member should be well groomed. I think they should walk a particular way. I think they should speak a particular way. And learning about etiquette and manners and all those other little things that I think are really important little touch points. When it comes to grooming and deportment, what do you see as some of the essential things to get right?
Oh, Jesse, we haven't got enough time. But
we can make time.
When I do my in-house infection control training sessions around Australia and dental surgeries, I actually go into this, not in great detail, but I get the message across pretty quickly. What is good? I mean, just to start off with, a clean uniform would be nice.
Yeah, and ironed.
And ironed.
Yeah.
That is so important. I mean, just your overall, take pride in what you're doing. When I was teaching dental nursing, I used to say to the girls, tell me, how long does it take you to get ready to go out to a nightclub? Oh, 2 hours. I said, well, I'm not going to ask you to spend 2 hours to get ready to go to work. But spend a bit of time presenting yourself well. If you look right, if your hair's tied back, if it's clean, it's got to be clean. And remember, girls, you don't work at the Mac counter at David Jones. You're in a dental surgery.
Mm-hmm.
So all these lovely long false eyelashes and the total makeup that they wear at David Jones or Myers, and that's fair enough. That's their industry. We're not in that industry. We're in the health industry.
Yeah.
And I say to them, quite honestly, you never know who you're going to meet.
Yeah.
I marry patients. You never know.
Yeah, totally.
You can meet somebody at the carousel getting your luggage at the airport. You never know where you're going to meet the person of your dreams. So always take pride in your presentation.
And it's interesting because you only get that first, that first appearance only happens once, doesn't it? That first impression.
First impression counts. Doesn't matter whether it's on the telephone or whether it's someone walking into the practice.
Mm.
But, people aren't stupid. People can tell if you love your job.
Yeah.
Or are you just there for the paycheck every Friday? And the boss can tell. But I do put a lot of it back onto the employers too, because, it's their business. It's their livelihood.
Mm.
And they've got to, I'm sure they really understand that the patient is coming not always because of the dentist. It could be the way the receptionist has been treated. And this happened to, I heard my husband talking a few weeks ago to a neighbour. She was saying to my husband, oh, my dentist is retired and, I don't know what I'm going to do. And Alex said, look, go and see give such and such a ring. She's lovely. She'll fit you in. She's lovely. No mention about the dentist. Because let's face it, there is dentistry, there's dentistry. I understand that.
Yep.
It's good and bad, everything we do. But they're trained to be a dentist. You're not trained to run a practice. That comes with education after dentistry.
It does.
So your front office person is the most important person in the practice. And the second most important person is your nurse.
Yeah, I love it.
But they've got to learn that they've got to educate them and they've got to look after them. I'm not saying go all out. It's the little things that you do for somebody that count more than the big things. Like, okay, guys, I'm going to shout lunch today, or I'm getting lunch brought in. It could be something like that. $20 worth of pizza.
Mm.
That can have more of an impact on your practice than you'll ever know.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Why is it then, do you think, Sue, that people just don't get that message or it doesn't land?
Oh.
Some people do, but some don't.
Some people do and some people don't. And I just think they think it's their God-given right. They're a dentist, so their patients are going to come to them. But that's very old-school thinking.
It really is, yeah.
It's really old-school thinking now.
Yeah.
Dentistry changed. It's now you have to go that extra mile. Your practice has to look good.
Mm.
Presentation, I walk into a practice and I go, wow. If I'm thinking that, what are the patients thinking?
Yeah.
The same thing. And education, and there's nothing worse than hearing nurses or receptionists bitching about the dentist behind their back.
Yep.
Don't give them cause to do that. And it's lovely when you hear, oh, I've been working here for 10 years. I automatically think, well, you're being looked after.
Yeah. Something's working, right?
Something is definitely working.
Yeah.
He's giving me education. He's giving me, the tools that I need to be able to do my job to the fullest.
Now, speaking of tools that the front desk person might need to be able to do their job to the best of their ability, what sort of tools do you think that they need, and where do you think the practice owner can support the front desk person in that?
Interesting question. Dentists, as we know, and hygienists, therapists, whatever, have to do CPD points over a period of 3 years, which is ongoing education. Why on earth doesn't the receptionist need ongoing education?
Hmm.
Half the time they've been thrown into the position. They've been given a line, good morning, Dr. Smith's Dental Surgery, how can I help you? And here's an appointment book, a computer, and they've got to go from there. They're uphill without a battle.
Yeah.
And it's practice. But you see, it's trying to educate the dentist. You got to spend money to make money.
Yeah.
And that's in life.
Yeah, one of the things that we talk about, Sue, and I know you and I have had this conversation a million times, is that my observation is the practices that do really well are the ones that invest most in training. And
absolutely.
If you want to scale up your practice, and many people listening to this podcast understand that they want to build a business that's truly leveraged, truly independent, and one of the challenges that practice owners talk about all the time is, why won't my staff do this, that, and the other? But my response is because they're not trained, or they don't know to, or, very rarely, in fact, I've never come across anyone who goes to work trying to do a bad job. Never. Not once in 20 or 30 odd years of work. Maybe there's someone somewhere, but my view is, so if we can train our teams well, give them the resources they need, indicate what a good job looks like, then they're going to generally do a good job. Is that a fair enough assessment?
I think it's fair enough. But the key word there too is that we need to think about is communicate.
Yes.
The operator to say to the front desk, listen, how are things going out here? If any problems at all? Be approachable. For the operator, for the principal to be approachable. When I go in to do infection control training, I always pull the principal of the practice out the side and the practice manager, and I say, okay, what have you been asking your staff to do? And they just won't do it.
Mm.
And I will bring that up in the training session, and hearing it from an outsider can have much more impact.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
But I think the operator needs to sort of think about, not just drill and fill. They've got to think about their staff. And good staff are hard to come by.
Yeah.
You've got to nurture them. You've got to educate. You've got to give them the tools. You've got to just do nice little things for them. I mean, I was at a practice on Sunday, 22 people. Out of that 22, more than half had been there for 10 years.
Wow. That's a really good reflection on the business and the owner as much as the team, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I said, how do you cope with so many females? I said, we don't let it get out of control. We have, meetings on a regular basis. Like I said, how often? They said, every morning we have a huddle.
Mm-hmm.
Every Friday we have lunch, we sit down and we talk about things,
Yep.
And I think you need team building tools, because the more tools and the more team building activities you do, the closer your team's going to be.
Yeah.
And they automatically think, oh, my boss appreciates me.
I think that's great. So I want to ask you a little bit about the elements of someone who's doing well in a front desk role, because you and I are going to be running some training on front desk, right?
That's right. I'm so looking forward to it.
Yeah, well, so am I. And I think this is a really important topic because it's, as you said, it is the first impression of the business is usually that front desk person, whether it's the telephone, someone walking through the door, whatever it happens to be, it's that first impression and it matters. So we are going to run some training on that. And if anyone's interested in finding out more about that, you can head across to savvydentist.com/front desk. So savvydentist.com/front desk. But so I want to ask you a little bit about what are the essential elements, what are the standout qualities of a great front desk team? How do you know that you've got a good front desk team? How do you know it's operating well?
How do you know it's operating well? Well, someone on the front desk would be extremely approachable. They would be observing the whole team of what's going on. Is anyone stressed in this team? Is anyone having a bad day? Pull them aside. I used to say to my girls, I'm not a mind reader. God didn't give me that ability. If you're not having a good day or you're not happy with something, let me know and I'll fix it for you. But someone who is outstanding will be able to cope with those situations. Yeah. I think encouraging the staff to be a team player, helping one another, being able to cope, take control of situations, watching what's going on in reception. Not every patient that's going to walk through that door wants to be there. And if someone's a bit nervous, go and sit down and have a little chat with them.
Yeah.
Make them a cup of tea. Hopefully you won't have to make them a cup of tea because you won't be running that late. But a glass of water maybe.
Yep.
Observe what's going on in your practice. Someone who is really good on the front desk will have a full book all the time.
Yeah.
Being able to sort of ring a patient and say, look, I've just had a cancellation and I thought of you. How would you feel if you were the patient? Oh, that's so nice. She thought of me. Oh, yes, of course I'll come in.
Yeah. Isn't that great? I want to talk to you a little bit about keeping that book full because that is a really important skill, right? Because we all understand that the structure of the appointment book and how it's managed massively impacts the success of the business from a commercial point of view.
Correct.
What sort of things do you think you need to be able to master to run the appointment book well? Making
the patient understand how important their next appointment is.
Yeah. Yep.
And if they keep cancelling, have the guts, talk to your boss and say, look, this patient has cancelled twice, 3 times. We don't need this patient. We don't need them. They're wasting your time.
Totally.
It's like working on an airline. Bums on seats make money. Empty seats don't make any money.
Yep.
And it's exactly the same with a dental surgery.
Yeah.
And I think it's always handy to have a few patients that that can come in at the last minute. I mean, there's always going to be the exception to the rule.
Sure.
There could be car accident. I've had patients have flat tires, whatever. And you can ring somebody, and say, look, I've got this cancellation. It's an incident that's happened to the patient. And I thought of you. Are you able to come down the next 15 minutes? Sure, no problem, sir. I'll be there.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
And then what you could do is reward that patient.
Yeah.
And say, look, I really do appreciate you coming down. Send them a movie ticket.
Yeah. Yeah.
Show appreciation not just to your staff but to your patients.
Look, I think, so we're on a topic now I could speak about for days, Sue, is the whole concept of appreciation, because I think it's underdone. I think
Absolutely.
we all understand and we talk about appreciating your team, and yes, we all get that. But the point you've just raised is appreciation of patients, and I think that that's a very important thing to take on board. Ladies and gents, if you've just joined us, I'd like you to rewind the last 30, 40 seconds that Sue's been speaking and just pay close attention, because what she's spoken about is the importance of demonstrating appreciation to your patients when they do something nice. Even if they don't do something especially nice, the appreciation of your patients goes a very long way to helping them be retained in the practice, to have them come back again and again and again. And we all know that the cost of acquiring patients is much more than retaining patients. So we want to hang on to them. So a little bit of appreciation goes a very long way in my mind.
I can remember, Jesse, I had a patient that had been at the practice for quite a while, and she was getting married. And I said to the boss, look, this patient's been coming for years. She's getting married. What could we do? And he said, send her a card. And I said, no, I'm not sending her a card.
Nah.
So I sent her a pedicure.
Oh, lovely. She would have loved it.
What was a $30 pedicure back in those days? She was overwhelmed, and she told everybody.
Yeah.
And this is what happens. People are very, very quick to give, bad feedback to people. Oh, don't go there, or don't do this, don't do that. But people are also very, very quick to say, I go to the best. This is what they did for me. And they gave me this and that, whatever. And really, where are they? Give me their number. I'm going to give them a ring. My dentist never does that.
Yeah, exactly.
Or, it's the little things you do. It's not the big items. It's the little things.
Yeah. So those little things make a really big difference, and we are going to cover a lot of that in our course that we're running. So, but I want to just touch on, just for a moment as we begin to wrap up, if you were to give, firstly, front desk personnel some advice, then equally some advice for the practice owner. I know that there's probably two different groups of people, perhaps different advice, but if you wanted to give one or two or three pieces of advice to each of those groups to help them really have a high-functioning, rock-solid front desk experience, what sort of advice would you give to firstly the front desk personnel, and then secondarily to the dental practice owner?
Okay, to the front office people, take a chill pill, relax, smile, have a laugh.
Yep.
And if you're having a bad day or you're having a bad moment, just say to somebody, look, I just need to get out of here for 15 minutes to clear my head.
Yep.
And you'll come back a different person. To the business owner, education.
Yeah.
Come to our course. It's going to be fantastic because I'm going to have a good time. I don't go to work and not have fun. You can ask any of my clients. They go, my God, Sue, we have so much fun. And that's infection control, which is such a dry subject, but I love it. I have so much fun. Education.
Yeah, okay.
Spend the time and the money educating your staff, because you will see the results, because the workshops that we're going to run, Jesse, are going to steer them in the right direction. And a lot of them don't know how or what to do. We're going to show them how and what to do. Yeah. And the results will be so positive in their practice.
Yeah.
I'm so excited because it's such a great topic, and I love hearing success stories. I spoke to a dentist, actually, just getting off the topic a little bit, spoke to a guy who's in fourth year dentistry.
Yeah.
And he's working as a receptionist. And he said to me, oh, Sue, I'm thinking of quitting. And I said, what? I said, you're what? I said, don't you dare say that. I said, you've studied all these years. He goes, but I failed a couple of subjects. I said, that's okay. We learn by our failures.
Yeah.
We move on. If you want help in any way, is it a particular subject that you're not sure about or you're having problems? I said, contact me. You've got my card. You know where I am. I'll find someone if I can't help you, because I probably can't in dentistry, who can help you. If it's endodontics, I've got the best. Periodontics, whatever. I can get people to help you. I said, I don't want you to stop now. You've gone too far. And he said, will you become my mentor?
Oh, isn't that lovely?
No, but I said I'll definitely bring you a bottle of champagne when you graduate.
Ah, that's awesome.
But he wants the tools. He wants to succeed, but he's thinking of bailing out because he's feeling lost.
Yeah.
And probably someone like me was just there at the right time, and that can often happen. Help him.
I think there's a lot of people actually in life, Sue, but in our world, dentistry, I think there are a lot of people that feel lost in one form or another. They might feel lost in how to run their business. They might feel lost clinically. They might feel lost about how to help their staff be their best. And I think it's really good that people reach out to, people like you to, get that advice, to get that support, because running a business or being in a workplace can sometimes feel a bit lonely. And it's nice to make sure you've got someone in your corner to help and support you. And, I really commend you for that, Sue. I think that's fantastic. And look, I love hanging out with you because every time I talk to you, Sue, I always walk away from that interaction feeling better. And I know that all your clients, and I've spoken to heaps of your clients, tons, that's a universal experience. That's not a one-off. That's a universal experience. So I love what you bring to that, the energy, the passion, the enthusiasm, and the caring, which is tremendous.
I think, too, that with my business, once I've done the infection control, they then become part of Practice-Based Solution family. They know they can ring me at any time and ask me a question. I said, girls, even if you don't want to ask the practice manager because you feel embarrassed, you can always ring me. And I said, I'll always give you an answer. And I think the door is always open. Consequently, I've got clients I see every 12 months, who just like, we want you back, Sue. We want you back. And the referrals that I'm getting through DPR, for example, is amazing.
Yeah, well done, you.
No, but I'm having a great time.
Yeah, well, I know that you do, in everything that you do, Sue, fun is one of the things that you like in life, and that's fantastic. So, Sue, we've got the few little hints and tips there for the front desk person and for the practice owner. Any other last thoughts you'd like to leave the audience with today, just as we wrap up, just to tie it in a nice little bow?
No, I think what I'd like to do, what I would like, is I'd like people to come to our seminar. I'd like to meet you. I'd like to discuss your issues or your problems you're having with staff, or the staff that are having problems. How can we solve them?
Yeah.
Because I'm very passionate about dentistry and always have been, and I want practice to succeed. And I would love to engage with you and help you as much as I can. And the door will always be open to give me a call. So I'm looking forward to meeting you all at the seminars we're running around Australia. And, I hope you all have a great day.
All right. Well, thank you, Sue. And ladies and gents, if you want to come and see Sue and I present on how to run an awesome front desk, we're going to be talking around Sydney, Brisbane, Melbourne, Adelaide, heaps of places. But head across to savvydentist.com/front desk. You can find out where we're going to be and what dates. And as Sue said, we'd love to see you there. It's going to be a lot of fun. Sue will obviously be bringing her A game. I'll be bringing my A game. And we hope that you and your team will bring your A game too, so we can really help you move along in that space. So until next week, take good care and we'll catch up soon. Bye now.
Thank you for listening to the Savvy Dentist podcast with Dr. Jessie Green. For more free tools and resources, join the free Facebook group. Visit drjessiegreen.com/Facebook. And for more episodes, visit drjessiegreen.com/savvydentist.